I have a real interesting one that I this, first came across my desk maybe 3, 4 years ago, but it's buying HOA foreclosures. So here in Texas, the HOA has the right to, under certain conditions, to foreclose on a property if a homeowner isn't paying their dues. Now, usually it has to get to a certain amount before that happens, but it makes it sometimes these properties can make their way to the courthouse steps and be auctioned off for 20, 30,000 dollars. I've seen one be auctioned off for 7,000. Now, you have to keep in mind that you're taking subject to the pre-existing and senior mortgage, but you can get in super duper cheap. And there's some strategies to that method, which has been super interesting to see.
Welcome to the Texas Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview Texas real estate professionals from active real estate investors, lenders, property managers, and many others that provide goods and services into the real estate investing industry in the great state of Texas. Our goal is simple: to share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level, and to meet the pros that can help you get there. Texas Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and entrepreneurs build the business they need to live the life that they've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Today's guest, Keaton Frieberg, is a real estate attorney in Texas out of the San Antonio area. Keaton, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dylan. I'm super happy to be here.
It's great to have you on here. I always like to start off at the top of every show, regardless of who I'm speaking with, by asking guests how they got started in real estate.
Yeah, no, great question. My first introduction to real estate was I was going to law school, and I told my dad, hey, I really like this place that's kind of close to campus. You should buy it and you should let me rent it from you. And so he is like, okay. He's like, it needs a lot of work. And I was like, well, you're a handy guy. Why don't you buy it, fix it up, and then let me rent it from you for something really cheap because I'm your son. And so that was actually my first introduction. We went and he bought the house. I helped him fix it up, and he's actually now, what is this? 7 years later, he's about to sell it. So he's about to realize all the effort that he put in, 7 years ago. And actually, after that first purchase, he ended up buying a couple, maybe 3 or 4 more duplexes, and he got super involved in real estate. So that was my very first introduction.
Wow. So it was kind of maybe divine intervention, because it sounds like it worked out for him too.
It worked out for both of us. And he and I have since gone on to buy properties together, which is great.
Now, what I find interesting about attorneys when it comes to real estate specifically is I've spoken with, real estate attorneys who are not investors. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is the person who would be most adept at understanding everything that's going on. But it strikes me as being relatively common now that I've seen more and more attorneys that not everybody who's a real estate attorney is even interested in investing.
Yeah, it blows my mind because, you can do well in the legal field, but if you want to build passive, long-lasting income, then you really should you should dip your toes into real estate at the same time.
And, specifically when we're talking about how complicated investing is for the average person, as an attorney.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
You're looking at it through the lens of, contract law, I'm imagining in many cases. And so it's not as like ominous and overbearing. So, you're the people who understand a lot of this better than everybody else does. I'm a realtor in Texas. And so I think the TREC contract is like 12 pages long. And then you've got the attorney, broker relationship with the TREC board. And so there's now more and more attorneys on that board. And so it seems to me like, there's maybe not as much interest as you would think. Do you think, in your perspective, Keaton, that there's anything maybe within someone's self personally, or maybe a tolerance for risk that makes it so that they are more interested in real estate investing, or so that they're not interested at all in real estate investing?
Yeah, great question. I think lawyers are inherently risk averse. And so real estate, there can be a lot of unknowns. When you get into it, I mean, as you know, I mean, once you've done a few deals or you've been through a couple of transactions, things start to become more familiar. You have a better idea of what to expect. And so I think that just the fact that there is some risk that's associated with getting into real estate, that's what isn't as so appealing to some attorneys. But I love risk. I mean, I think it's exciting to see risk pay off. And so for me, and then also it was hard. It's hard. I can't imagine being able to speak with my clients about things that they're going through if I haven't been through them myself. So that was one of my main deals and wanting to get into real estate too, is that I wanted to subject myself to as much as I can so that when I'm speaking one-on-one with a client, I can say, look, I've been there. I know what you're going through. And here's what I did, or here's what I would do if I was you.
Now, when we're talking about, actually walking the walk versus, the other side of it, I would say most people would say, well, you don't have to invest to be able to work with investors. Does it provide you a second lens knowing that you've done it yourself? Do you reference that when you're thinking about, how to approach certain issues?
Absolutely. Yep. You know, just recently we purchased a commercial building for our law firm. I mean, we handled the transaction from start to end, whether it's, drafting the contract, negotiating the contract, dealing with title, the whole deal, right? And so it's super helpful when I have other clients that are going through, if they're purchasing commercial property or even residential property. It's just on a smaller scale most of the time. Super helpful. And then also where I can identify with my clients a lot is um, bad tenants all the time, and so I cut my teeth doing evictions actually in Texas. And so I know exactly what it looks like to deal with a bad tenant, and the fastest, most expedited way to get your property back in your possession and stop the bleeding and start generating money again. And so that's somewhere where I can identify with telling my clients, maybe cash for keys is the way to go in this particular instance, because we just want to get you possession back so you can start making money again. I guess
I want to I want to ask you a granular. Sorry to interrupt you. I want to ask you a granular question about where attorneys come into play right now, and maybe are there some other areas where attorneys could be useful that real estate investors aren't thinking about potentially using them? Like, for instance, when you need to evict somebody, you'll need an attorney. When you need a contract written up, is there or are there attorneys who maybe wear multiple hats, who may be looking at it from a lens as, an eviction or writing a contract, but may also be looking at it from the lens of, I'm an investor myself and I can do some level of consulting work with the ability to to process the eviction?
Yeah, great question. I think that ability to consult is where my true value comes in. And it kind of going back to what you said, I've been here, I know what's going on, and really what we're trying to do. And anytime you're dealing with us, for the most part,
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
We're making business decisions. And so what can we do to put yourself in the best position to make the best business decision?
Now, when we talk about, some of the different asset classes that people are getting involved in, or maybe an on-ramp into real estate, they're trickier now than they were 5 years ago, frankly, because it's a little bit, I wouldn't say a little bit, it's very much a buyer's market, not a seller's market, with so much new construction. Pre-owned homes are sitting for longer. As an investor yourself, if you're maybe advising or speaking with someone who's a first time investor, are there any asset classes to you in Texas that are maybe more appealing than others?
Yeah, I think that specifically here in Texas, multifamily properties to me are the most interesting. That's what I'm looking for. I think that, and buying, I'm just buying things right now. Really, I think, like you said, it's kind of it's a buyer's market. I agree with you. I think it's a buyer's market, and so I'm buying and holding right now because I truly think that if you hold on to something long enough, you're probably going to end up doing okay on it.
Now, when we talk about multifamily, I don't know if you've seen this trend, but I've seen it from guests of the show, and I've definitely seen it maybe more so in some areas like Texas, where there's a lot of development happening. It seems like there were people who bought maybe too deep, didn't look at their pro forma from a perspective of what if the non-ideal situation happens? What if our rates double, and we have these arm rate loans? What if rents don't rise? What if our property doesn't appreciate very much or at all? What's our 5-year exit strategy? I've noticed that there does seem to be some distress, not in the properties themselves, but in the operators. So they may be more open to, a creative offer, seller financing, or, just something outside the box. Have you seen this as well in the multifamily space?
Yeah, I mean, across all asset classes, I've seen sub twos. I get sub two agreements come across or contracts come across my desk almost daily. Sub twos, assumptions, and seller financing are huge right now.
Now, San Antonio, I lived in San Antonio for about 4 or 5 years. And what I noticed about the city specifically is it does seem to, at least from my perspective, get hit a little bit harder than other areas of the state by real estate trends. I'll give you an example. So I was a wholesaler prior to being a realtor, and I did feel like it was just slightly more challenging to acquire properties for the right price after 2023 and then pair them with investors. It's still not easy to do it in DFW, where I later moved to, but it was a little bit less challenging. Have you noticed this as well about San Antonio on the single family side, that it does seem to be impacted by these macro trends, maybe more than some other Texas cities?
Yeah, yeah, and going both ways too. So I think that when things are going good for San Antonio, they're going really good for San Antonio, maybe better than Houston or Dallas or Austin. Obviously, without Austin's little bump that I had a couple years ago, but also on the downside, yeah, we're feeling it. I also, in addition to buying holds, I do some fix and flips, and our fix and flips are a little. I think they're a little. It's a little harder to get these things done here than I imagine some of the other Texas markets.
Yeah, I mean, I have that sentiment myself, especially working with a lot of investors. I saw it in real time, and I was just one person, but I was feeling like, man, this is drying up. And then ultimately, the DFW market, it wasn't easy to fix and flip up there either. But a lot of that can be attributed to the massive influx of new developments, pretty much everywhere. And I want to touch on that, Keaton. So we're seeing developments in San Antonio. It seems like there's a subdivision going up everywhere. But at the same point in time, they're also developing multifamily. I've spoken with some multifamily investors who
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Told me, if your multifamily deal started in 2022 and it's wrapping up in 2024, and you're like, you broke ground in 22 and now you're finishing up in 2024, it's somewhat challenging because things have changed drastically. So you have to prepare for the market to change. When you're looking at these multifamily deals, what's some of the stress tests that you're looking at? Is it something as simple as, okay, we have to prepare for rates to double? Is it something like, well, there may be more uh, pressure downward in rents than there are upward?
Yeah, great question. So for multifamily acquisitions, me and my team, all that we're looking for right now, because to an earlier point that you made, there's so many seller financing deals out there right now that's what we're doing. We're doing seller financing with maybe a 5 to 7 year balloon. Obviously, if we want to refi before rates go down, we want to refi before we can. So we're still only getting into a multifamily deal if there's good cash flow. So there are deals out there that still cash flow, and you can structure them, especially with the seller financing deal, to where they cash flow. And how we're doing that is saying, okay, seller, you want this thing, we'll give it to you full price. We won't negotiate on price, but we are going to negotiate with you on interest rates. And then at that point, we know that even if we have a lower vacancy than we'd like, that we're still going to be just fine because we're still going
Yeah.
to cash flow.
The seller finance space is super, super, I would say, hot right now. I've had
Yes.
both experienced and novice investors reaching out to me about uh, locating them seller finance properties that they can make offers in seller finance. And I would love to get your feedback. How do you broach this conversation with, listing agents or with sellers themselves directly, especially if they're looking, for a traditional, offer and not thinking about seller financing?
Yep. Days on market. If you've been on the market for a really, really long time, then it makes this whole seller financing, like let's move this property conversation a lot easier. So, I mean, all it is, and it's usually not me that's actually discussing it with the other agent. I have another agent that I work with, but basically all he's saying is, hey, this has been on the, this property has been on the market for a long time now. Does your client have any interest in holding this note for, a period of time? And that opens the door.
Hey, I'm going to take that one to the bank. I'm going to put that in my repertoire there. I've noticed that there does seem to be some hesitancy, I would say, from investors in general for making offers that are on market. Some investors will just say, I'm strictly looking for off market. But especially as an realtor, I'm looking at it from the lens of, okay, well, it's on market. They're trying to get eyeballs. They might not, love the offer, but I would still rather have an offer than no offer. So I'm going to entertain everything. Plus, the realtor's got the fiduciary responsibility to present every offer to the client.
You got it. You got it. Yeah. I mean, whether it's on market, off market, I mean, as long as our numbers work, I it doesn't really matter to me. If the numbers work, they work, whether it's on market or off market. Yeah. And a lot of off market, from my experience anyway, and my clients' experience, from what I see, a lot of this off market stuff is, cash to close, quick, something super duper quick, which is fine in some circumstances. We do that a lot for our residential acquisitions, but for some of the bigger commercial ones, we're not coming with cash to close in 5 days, like a lot of these, like you would see from like a wholesaler or something like that.
Right. It's going to be tough to put together a syndication on
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, 50 unit apartment complex overnight. But I've also seen this trend, and I'm curious if you've seen this as well, from folks who are, I don't want to say agnostic to asset class because you can't just jump from like single family to 200 unit apartment complexes. But I have seen people be more open minded to, hey, I've got to try a different strategy, or I've maybe got to have, you know, my arms in a couple different buckets here in order to make this thing work. I've seen specifically flippers get into new construction. I've seen people start looking at small multifamily and then larger multifamily, starting syndications and this type of thing over the last 3 years. Have you seen this as well?
I have, and to be honest with my clients, I do caution against it a little bit. I think that sometimes it may look sexy to go move from buying and holding something for 10 years to doing a quick fix and flip, but the problem is that you spend all this time and energy figuring out how to buy and hold something, how to be a good landlord, or how to put the right people in the right place to do the right job at the right time, and then all of a sudden you're gonna switch over to fix and flip, which is a whole new world to live in. And so I think it's fine, and especially if you're gonna be in it for the long haul, but I caution against just jumping just because, ooh, this looks good for right now, because also things might change. So I've seen it. I've seen the trend. I support it if you're gonna be bought all in for the long run.
The fast money is slow money is what I say. The fast money is slow money. So if you have, people in your network who are buying and holding and they're doing well in that, I don't know if now is the time to jump into fix and flip. It might be one of the more challenging times in Texas real estate to do that when, DR Horton and Lennar have, homes for darn near 230, $40,000 brand new. It might be smaller, but that's what your flip is going up against. I want to pivot here, Keaton, and ask you some granular questions, if I may, about some of the ways that single family flippers and buy and hold investors are acquiring and have traditionally acquired distressed property in Texas. Maybe give away some of the gold, but not all of the gold. I'd love to get your feedback on this. I have experienced, foreclosure auctions, probate lists, divorce, death in the family. I've just gone up and knocked on homes. There's a strategy of if it's high days on market, I'm gonna make an offer there. Have you had, or have your investors had any particular success in one of these avenues, or do you really think it's dependent maybe on the person and their appetite for that specific lead strategy?
I have a real interesting one that I this first came across my desk maybe 3-4 years ago, but it's buying HOA foreclosures. So here in Texas, the HOA has the right to, under certain conditions, to foreclose on a property if a homeowner isn't paying their dues. Now, usually it has to get to a certain amount before that happens, but it makes it sometimes these properties can make their way to the courthouse steps and be auctioned off for 20, 30,000 dollars. I've seen one be auctioned off for 7,000. Now, you have to keep in mind that you're taking subject to the pre-existing and senior mortgage. So if there's a senior lien up there that's for 100 grand, you are going to be stepping into the shoes of the previous owner and you got to fulfill that obligation, right? But you can get in super duper cheap, and there's some strategies to that method, which has been super interesting to see.
Heard this before, and it carries more weight coming from you. I can't wrap my head around it. So, are these people current with their mortgage but not paying their HOA fees?
Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. They could be current on their mortgage. Usually they're not. Usually it's both, but the HOA forecloses prior or before the senior lien holder forecloses.
I was gonna say, I know some people don't love their HOA, right? But imagine just being so petty. You're like, I don't care if I lose my home, but I'm not paying the HOA. We're gonna move. I almost respect that.
It's crazy. And there's some circumstances where, you know, somebody dies and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden they're not paying their dues, and then it gets racks up. The estate hasn't come in to clean anything up yet. And so there are some other circumstances that arise, but that to me has been super duper interesting.
And it's interesting when we're talking about HOA because, I'm right now in northern New Jersey visiting my parents. There's not HOAs all around the tri state area, but it seems like practically every new subdivision in Texas and even the established ones are in HOAs. I, as a realtor, I like the idea of HOAs because it holds property values. But then also on the flip side, people can be foreclosed for HOAs. So it does, I guess lend some degree of risk if you're entering an HOA. That's another way you could get foreclosed on.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, when I first found out about it, when I had somebody come to me and say, "Hey, look, this is what we just did," I was like, "What do you mean you just bought somebody's house for $10,000 because of an HOA or because of HOA dues?" I thought it was insane. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Now, I'm familiar with like Super Tuesday, the first Tuesday of every month, County Courthouse Steps. I've been to that foreclosure auction in San Antonio, downtown San Antonio. Is that where they're foreclosing for the HOA as well?
Same place, same time.
Will they announce it? This is an HOA foreclosure. You have to know.
Yeah, sometimes the trustee is gonna when they read off their script, they're usually saying the instrument by which they're foreclosing on or how they got to be able to foreclose on a particular property. So yeah, you should know. And if you go by the auction script, the auction lists of all the
Yeah, the
properties
Roddy
that are being
report. Yeah.
foreclosed on, it usually tells you, and it'll tell you that you know this property is being foreclosed on by the HOA, and that here's the senior lien that's in the amount of whatever it is.
Now, there's some people who love to buy at the auction. There's some people who don't love to buy at the auction. There's folks who like to buy off market and on market. When you're looking at, okay, well, where do I put my time and attention to? You've got the HOA. That seems to be something that's working for you. What advice would you give to folks who may be, just starting out and may be overwhelmed? Hey, where do I start? I don't necessarily, they might not have the money to start buying HOA foreclosures if they're competing with some other folks. But maybe they do. Where would be your advice as a starting block for a newer investor?
My very first property that I bought was an on-market property. It was in New Braunfels, right in between San Antonio and Austin. It was a duplex. I was on Zillow. I messaged the realtor and I said, "Hey, I'd like to see this property." He's like, "Oh, that actually got taken down a little while ago, but I have this one over here if you want to come check it out." I went and checked it out. I did my numbers. I ran what I thought rent was going to be, how much the mortgage was going to be, whatever, and ended up purchasing that property. And it's been the best investment that I've ever had. I mean, it's cash
You're
flows.
kidding me.
No, and that was the best. And it was on Zillow.
Hey, that's a testimony for everyone who's listening to this and says I don't make on market offers. Here we have a story of how this works out from time to time. Uh,
Yeah.
and we are coming up on time here, though. Where can folks go if maybe they're interested in reaching out to you? Maybe they have a deal that they would like to bring your way, or maybe they have a legal situation, an eviction, and would like a consult. How can folks reach out to you or your team?
Sure. Yeah, they can go to our website www.txsuits.com, or they can email me Keaton Keaton at txsuits.com, and our phone number is 210-503-2800.
Keaton, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. If you're looking to take your business and your life to the next level, you really need to learn more about the Investor Fuel Mastermind. It's your shortcut to success. To learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other amazing entrepreneurs, 100% financing on your deals, member-only discounts, and so much more, please visit investorfuel.com/Texas. By the way, Investor Fuel is even Texas-based. Also, if you're interested in applying to be a guest on this very show, the Texas Real Estate Pro Show, please visit investorfuel.com/Texas. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app so you never miss another episode. We'll see you on the next show.